Thanks very much, Stevie, and welcome again to everybody to the Porterhouse for this function. And 2 years ago, on the 5th of August, Dillon Quirke, while playing for his club Clonoulty Rossmore in the county championship against Kilruan McDonough's in Thurles in Semple Stadium, collapsed and died. And even to say that again now, it's rather startling, I think, for everybody. And I was just looking back over the last few days on the work of the foundation particularly, and also on the fact of how prevalent sudden adult death syndrome is. And we may think at the time, 2 years ago on the 5th of August, I think everybody was so shocked that this could happen to a guy who was so fit and so competitive, and that it could happen so suddenly without any warning. And I suppose that's the thing about sudden adult death syndrome. And looking back, you can go back hundreds of years and you will see cases of it where people died on the field of play or died playing a particular sport. And it just, when we heard about it 2 years ago, I suppose we were all extremely shocked. And you know that initial shock, and you just can't believe that something like that has happened. And since then, we've been aware, of course, of a number of others very similar that have died as well in similar circumstances. In the last week, I just saw about a chap in Kilkenny playing for a charity game, a charity soccer game, again collapsed and died. And last month we had a young girl in County Louth playing for her ladies soccer team, and the same thing happened. So it's something that we should be very much aware of, and that's why the work of the foundation is so important, and particularly to make people aware of this cardiac screening. Now, Dan is going to talk about that, and he's much more qualified to speak about it than me, Dan being Dillon's father, and who set up this foundation after Dillon died. And it was a remarkable thing to do, because when you're consumed with grief, it's hard to know where to turn or what to do in those kind of situations. And for Dan and for his wife and family, they turned to setting up a foundation in memory of Dillon. And it is, as I said, quite a remarkable thing to do, because their aim is to have every young person screened in the country for cardiac issues. And like I myself suffered a stroke a number of years ago, and it came out of the blue for me. I had no prior knowledge that this was going to happen. It just came out of the blue. And similarly, you know, with what has happened with Dillon and other people, there is no prior knowledge of it. And there's something in our body, in our system, maybe some little flaw that we don't know about. And that's why it's so important that there's screening and that people can be screened. And I'm looking here at the two lads and thinking of them and how important it's going to be for them to be screened as well. And that's the aim of the foundation, is to get everybody screened. And when Dan started this, I suppose it was something that people wondered if it was achievable. But it is achievable, as we can see from the foundation and the work that has been done and the number of screenings that have already taken place right across the country. And it's not just GA players, it's people of all different sports. And I think that what's happening here tonight is just a lesson to us all about the importance of looking after our health and going for an MOT, even at the age that the lads are at now, where they think that they're invincible and that nothing will happen to them. And please God, it won't. But we have to be conscious that it's important to get themselves checked. Whatever your age is, it's important to get yourself checked for any particular issues, particularly in relation to cardiac issues. So after Dillon passed, I I was kind of overcome myself, as I'm sure everybody here was. And I was thinking of the family particularly. And I was thinking about, you know, how we could mark Dillon's passing. And for me at that stage, I was doing a bit of writing. I'd written a book and I was doing a bit of poetry and stuff. And there was words kind of came in and out of my own mind. I think Dillon kind of inspired me in a lot of different ways. And I came up with this poem titled A Warrior Through All His Short Years, a poem in memory of Dillon Quirke. And I'd like to read it for you. And I'd like to just explain a bit of the background to it. When I composed the poem, and I felt, well, it was no good just letting it lie there someplace. You know, the important thing was to put it out there. So I went and I got it published. I got it printed like at Fitzpatrick's printers. And it's important to note here that, you know, the funds raised, everything has been done, you know, there wasn't a penny paid. I paid for the cost of the printing, and everybody else paid for different aspects of this. So it's important to say that every penny that's raised is going directly to the Dillon Quirke Foundation, and that's very important. So I'm going to read the poem, and I think the foundation have asked particularly that we could put it on video. So I'm just going to put Stevie on notice there that I'm going to read the poem, and that this will be as well on social media. The foundation will have it as well. So it's A Warrior Through All His Short Years, a poem in memory of Dillon Quirke. A son, a brother, a colleague, a friend, a warrior through all his short years, a hurler, a champion, a sportsman, a Gael, a man who lived without fear, a player, a leader, a teammate, a star, a dream of what any young man should be, a talent, a skill, a powerhouse, a life, a person who inspired you and me. A smile, a wave, a laugh, a cheeky grin, a person who was the heart and soul. A jersey, a ball, a hurley, a strike, a forward to be feared front of goal. A memory, a laugh, a story, a tear, a young man we will never forget. A song, a chant, a shout, a roar, a name to recall when the ball hits the net. A parish, a club, a county, a team, a wing-back that breaks through the lines, a medal, a cup, a trophy, a speech, a memory that is frozen in time. A date, a day, a place, a pitch, a legend struck down in his prime, a tribute, a letter, a card, a poem, a memory of Dillon, gifted star of his time. So that's my little tribute to Dillon, and I'm glad to say that, you know, I put this out for sale. I asked people to give a $5 for a copy, and some people give me a hell of a lot more than a $5. And also, there was a group, I won't name the group, that was disbanding, and I was involved in it, and I asked one of the people on it if we could give the funds to the Dillon Quirke Foundation, and she said certainly, and that's Mary Condon Murphy, as we know her. And Mary, thank you for that. You're here with us this evening, and it was great to be able to give that money as well to the foundation. So before we do any presentation or anything like that of the money, and to tell you how much is there to hand over, I'd like to now invite Dan Quirke, Dillon's dad, who set up this foundation, to come forward and to speak to us about the work of the foundation and what they've been doing. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Martin, very much for a beautiful poem, Martin. It really was. It's heartwarming to listen to it. And first of all, thanks to everybody for coming this evening, and a heartfelt congratulations to two great men over here for bringing back the All-Ireland Minor Cup. A better performance I think I've ever seen from any Tipperary team in any generation. You're a credit to your family and your club, lads. Congratulations. I'll tell you a little bit about Dillon for some of you that mightn't have known him. The young man that passed away 2 years ago. You young lads probably wouldn't have known him, but Cathal would have known him well as a friend and a player. As a son, he was an amazing young man. He took everything in his stride. He was great in his job. He worked in the delicatessens with us for 2 years before he passed away. He was great fun to work with. He worked very hard. He was able to come and go as he pleased, so he could work on his fitness and whatever. He had some great times during the pandemic with Cathal and Mikey Breen. Just come out and train in the gym at the back of our house. And a great time. He was great fun to be with. I was lucky enough to go to New Zealand in 2017 with the Lions for 3 weeks with Dillon when we have the series. And what a 21 days we had, and I'll never forget it. I'm so grateful that I could have spent that time with him. We as a family were so glad that we got 24 years with Dillon. As I said, he never causes 1 ounce of trouble, and he was just a smashing guy. And he was probably a joker in the pack, as Cathal will tell you. It was always a joke with Dillon and a bit of fun, and that's what made him the guy he was. That's just a little bit about Dillon. And when he passed, I suppose he wasn't there the week, and I said to Hazel, this is horrendous what's going on. We'd know nothing about SAD, sudden adult death syndrome. We said, look, let's look into it and see if we can help and do something. So I think about 8 or 10 weeks later, on the 20th of December, we set up the Dillon Quirke Foundation with a plan to, it's probably a GA foundation when it started, was to help screen young adolescents, both boys and girls, all over the country. It took us 9 months to get our charitable registration, which was very difficult, but thankfully we got that in September of last year. And we started screening on the 10th of January this year. Now, so our plan was to screen 5,000 young adolescents in 2024, but thankfully, in this year alone, we've raised over €1 million, and we've screened 10,000 young kids. So it's tremendous, the support we've got all over the country. We have screened in every county in Ireland, and I think we have 360 clubs waiting to be screened at the minute. Thankfully, we're not just a GA foundation. We have rugby involved, we have soccer involved, we have basketball, horse racing, dancing, if you don't mind. So look, it's great to have so many different organisations involved, and as Martin Brown will tell you, we're heading towards the Oireachtas. I'm not sure when, but we're definitely going to get there. And our plan is that all young kids, when they reach secondary school, will be heart screened. And if we can do that, it'll be a tremendous legacy for Dillon, and a legacy that should happen, and please God, it will happen. I finish with a little story that only happened yesterday. Just to let you know, this does work. Hazel was inside in Limerick City, and she was walking down the street, and a lady stopped her. Hazel didn't know, but this lady knew Hazel, and she said, can you just talk to her for a couple of minutes? She said, my niece is going for procedure next Tuesday, and it wouldn't have happened only for the Dillon Quirke Foundation. So to hear them stories, lads, it's amazing. It really doesn't, it sets the message out there that we are working, and it's going to work. And finally, I'll tell you, I was at a wedding in France 6 weeks ago. Niall Quinn's daughter got married, and Niall's nephew is a top consultant cardiologist in Australia, in Sydney. And I just wanted reassurance that what we're doing is the correct thing, and I went over to him, and we spoke for half an hour, and I said, Sean, I said, what we're doing, is this making a difference? Are we doing the right thing? He said, Dan, I can promise you, you have saved lives already, and you will continue to do so. So it's lovely to hear that. It just tells everybody, lads, this does work. The foundation is working. We are screening people. We do need support financially, and we also need to get the awareness out there. Screening is so, so important. And I'd like to thank you all again for turning up tonight, and the best of luck in the future. Thank you.
Cathal, I know I didn't flag this with you, but as a teammate of Dillon, would you like to say a few words?
You caught me on the hop, Maren. No, everything Dan said is very accurate. I never seen Dillon in bad form. there was always a cheeky grin. That was always one of the brightest things that we had in our dressing room, but was also one of the most worrying things we had in the dressing room, because when that grin was going, you knew the clocks were turning in his head and he was thinking of a plot to trick you with something or to make a fool out of you in some way. But that was just the fun that Dillon had and just the character he had. In regards to a teammate, he was an amazing teammate. Like, he was, as Dan mentioned, we used to go out to the gym during COVID. We did a lot of training and work on our own, but he never went hiding. He always would challenge me in different ways, and he'd always drive you on, and he liked to be challenged as well. He was a huge competitor, and I think it was his drive throughout different aspects of his life, be it his work at HLV, or when he went into the business with Dan, or went into sport, or whatever it is. I found that very infectious with Dillon. He was a hugely driven man and brought the fun and brought the laughter along with it, and that was what we loved the most about him. That's probably what we missed the most about it, is just, I suppose, that lovely gentle side to him, but also the devilment and the ferocious competitor that was in him. And sure, look, we miss him terribly, but it's brilliant that we have something like this to keep his memory going, and as Dan alluded to, just to continue to give awareness and save lives, because obviously it has affected many families, and will continue to affect many families if more work isn't done and more awareness and finances raised. So look, this is another fantastic event to suppose show our support to, and we wish you the very, very best of luck, and thanks to everyone for popping in.
Thanks very much, Carl. And we still have some copies of the poem there. So look, take them away with you and give them to somebody that you think would like to have it, I suppose, is the most important thing. And for us, it has been wonderful to be able to do this, and to be able to do it here in Tiptown, I think, as well, to spread the message of the Dillon Quirke Foundation. I think for us, it's maybe the start of a journey for us that we'll continue to help in any way that we can going forward into the future. I think that's very important for us. And I'd just like to thank John O'Shea from the West Board as well for being with us. And I also wanted to mention Tommy Barrett from Thurles. Tommy, I sent some of the poems to Tommy and said to him, look, could you sell some of those for me? And it was no problem. He did it straight away. So thank you as well, Tommy, and to everybody else who helped in any way. Now I'll ask John Shannon to take charge of the camera there, please, would you? Because we're going to make the presentation of the money. Somebody asked me to put in some money as well on top of what is already in there. So the cheque that we're presenting is for €1,819.36. And I have another almost 200, so we're gone over the 2,000 mark. So I have some people were giving me extra money when they heard about it, so we're delighted, and thank you for that very much. So it's great to say that we're presenting €2,000 to the Dillon Quirke Foundation. I know that twill help some way along the way. There's a lot of money to be raised, as Dan already said, and a lot of support, and I suppose you can do that as well with your public representative, not looking at Michael Murphy and Martin Brown at all. You can do that by what they need to do in spreading the message to the public representatives. So I'm going to ask Mary Murphy as well to join me here for the presentation. Mary, if you would come forward as well. And we'll present this 2,000 to the Dillon Quirke Foundation. To Dan, of course. So I think that brings our little event to a close. Thank you all for coming and for being with us. And again, as I mentioned earlier, bring away the poem with you if you know somebody that might cherish it, might like to have the poem. Do that. And thank you all. And we'll I'm sure there'll be another event in the future where we'll be talking about the foundation again. So thank you all very much.
Okay, folks, that concludes proceedings here from the Porterhouse in Bank Place in Tipperary Town. And again, well done to Martin Quinn.